Guys, let's make our way back to our seats. It's time to rock the house. We've got Clayton Macey, who's coming up to the stage. Just a moment here. We'll give you an official welcome, sir. Clayton's been at this event a couple of times already. What is this, your third year? Second year? Awesome. Yeah, you always get highlighted.
Mr. Cork, I'm going to do that for another.
This is Clayton's first year speaking at Coztalks, so he's going to crush it. He's going to do great. It's just like teaching a class to little kids, but just with big kids.
Yeah.
All right, guys, go ahead and have your take your seats here. So, guys, if you're just tuning in at home or at your school, welcome back to Coztalks 2020. We're right here on the island. We're having fun. Guys, if you're having a good time, make some noise. Yeah. So we have an incredible speaker who's coming up to the stage. He has worked hand in hand with Andrew Arquines as well as Melody Johnson. They incorporate the skills program. And one thing that's unique about Clayton Macey is that he has a great deal of experience and knowledge with students, with children who are on the autism spectrum. And, you know, many of you have been in the industry for multiple decades. You can easily look into your own student body. You can see that autism has been on the rise. It's very common now for us to have children that are on the spectrum in our classes, engaging, growing, earning black belts, becoming instructors and leaders. And it's a great thing to be able to empower the children regardless of their abilities. So instead of looking at this as like, oh, I have somebody that's on the spectrum, do I have to give them, you know, special attention and hold their hand? You'd be shocked. Students can crush it just like everybody else. So Clayton's going to share tips, tricks, strategies, mindset, best practices, things that he's discovered along the way to really make these classes powerful for students that are on the spectrum and to get them to excel. And one thing that you're going to, I'm sure you'll talk about is, you know, as they're excelling in martial arts, their life is going to the next level as well. So without any further ado, let's put our hands together, give a warm, huge Coztalks 2020 welcome to Clayton Macey. Welcome to the stage, brother.
Clayton, didn't you, something else just happen in your life?
Oh, yes. I just recently got engaged. I went to Europe, and I traveled all throughout Europe, and I was actually able to get engaged to my now fiance. So we've been together now for 3.5 years, so it's been a really awesome time. Thank you, guys. So again, yeah, my name's Clayton Macey, and I just figured before we dive right on into it, I would just give you guys a little bit of a background about myself. So I started again when I was 8 years old in martial arts. This is going to be year, I think, 14 or 15 for me, training in the skills program and under Melody Johnson, sorry about that one. And my head instructor is Andrew Arquines. I think the reason behind why I started this program, it actually goes way back to when I was 12 years old. It was me watching when I would come in early to just get ready for the day, because I used to come in pretty much every day to teach classes with Melody. So I would come in and she would actually have children that were on the spectrum before our regular classes that would come in for private lessons and that would work with her. And I always would watch and just be amazed at her ability to be able to stay connected and engaged with those students. And I always found that it was something that I wanted to do when I got older, but at the moment in time, being so young, I just didn't have the experience or real knowledge to be able to really handle those situations that came up. So what I ended up doing was, as I started to get older and I started to mature a little bit more and I started to work with a lot more kids on the spectrum, other kids as well, I was starting to become able to develop this program. So what I did was I kind of went through and I talked to a bunch of different OTs around our area. I worked with a bunch of kids on the spectrum, so although I don't really have a degree in any of this, I have a lot of hands-on experience. I have done a lot of studying with it, and I've done a lot of training with kids on the spectrum. So the program that I developed is really something that's supposed to help these kids grow into the next best versions of themselves that they can possibly be. So I'm going to go ahead and just take you guys through this, and I think I have a cool little slide that I'll show you guys, just a little background on me. I've got myself up there, getting my very first belt up in the top corner. You probably can't see it because it's just too bright outside. Master Melody right there, kicking me in the belly with a round kick, probably when I was like 12 years old. Yeah, there was another funny story where she kicked my headgear across the mat, and I was probably around the same size, but yeah, she's a deadly lady, so that was awesome. And then that's my fiance right up there. Don't hate on us because we're Patriots fans. It's just how it happens. So, keeping it short, guys, to tell you guys what autism is, this is it's something that is a sensory disorder that affects the way students hear, see, and feel the world. So, to all of you guys out there right now, all of this seems pretty normal the way I'm talking, but to kids on the spectrum, all of these different variations, these different stimuli that are going on, the fans, the lights, the loud noises, all of these things can really change the way that they actually take in and absorb information. So for all of you as instructors out there, or if you've never even worked with kids on the spectrum before, it's really important to understand these different things, because when you're working with them on the spectrum, it really helps them either have a successful class or have a really, really bad time in class as well. So again, this is also why people on the spectrum generally specialize in a few areas, but also can be a little bit weaker in some other areas. So we'll go ahead and cover those right now. So first thing, guys, is when working with the kids on the spectrum, you really want to have a lot of visual cues. They are very, very good visual learners, okay? Students will need lots of visual cues when you're running through drills, like animation, okay? When you're doing kicks, demonstrating the kicks, bringing your knee up, and taking the time to really show off what the techniques are supposed to look like. I would also say having printouts of your exercises or drills, so that way you can give them a visual to actually see and look at when they're actually studying. So instead of just demonstrating, okay, front kick, giving them a visual where it shows, you know, the chamber, the execution, the rechamber, and then returning it back to the ground. When they see all these different things, it allows them to have that little printout to look at and study so that they can start to figure out those different motions. Up next, guys, is our kinesthetic cues. So with these guys, this is something that's really, really valuable, because when they are able to actually put their hands on something and really dive into it, it's a lot more fun for them, and it has a lot more value to them as well. So allowing the students to feel different areas of body is key to having them perform martial arts well. One of the hacks that I found that works really, really well is giving them a compression t-shirt. So this actually helps them because most of the kids, again, they don't have that stimuli throughout their entire body. So when you help them by giving them that compression shirt, it allows them to have that sensation of where their arms are, where their body is, so that when they start to do these different blocks, strikes, kicks, they're able to put them in the right area because they understand where they are. And gently guiding the student into the correct position. So when you're helping them, again, you don't want to be crazy hands-on, grabbing tough, but able to just give them a light touch, helping them get to the position of where they need to be on a block if they just can't seem to get it by watching, helping them coming right over and then being able to just put them in that position will start to help them be able to learn the technique a little bit better. And then using all of these cues will also help them activate their brain in the proper way so that they can do the techniques properly as well. And then our final one is going to be our auditory cues. So being straightforward with these guys, okay? You don't want to have any sarcasm when you're talking with the students, because most students on the spectrum don't have any understanding of sarcasm. So when you start to say things that are sarcastic, you may see them actually take things literally. Like when you say, it's a funny story, I say, put my eyes on me to one of my students, and one of my students actually was like trying to grab their eye and put it on. So it's very, very literal when they take things. So you want to be very, very careful with the things that you're saying to the students, because again, they will take it very literally. And make sure you guys repeat the instructions. Don't be afraid to, be that person that says it 5 or 6 times in a class, and be that instructor that thinks, oh no, I said it once, you guys should already understand and learn it. It's not going to happen that way. The more that you guys can explain it throughout the drill, during the drill, it's going to help the students start to pick up on it a lot better. So make sure you're giving those auditory cues as much as you possibly can. So now we're going to dive into the different skills. I developed 8 skills that I found working over 2 years with kids on the spectrum, were things that they were very good at, but there are also areas that they can excel at, or cannot be as good at. So the goal of this program is to really help these students build up all 8 different areas and become the best versions of themselves they can be. First skill is awareness. So this one's a big one, okay? For these guys, being able to have that awareness with their eyes and being able to see what's around them, okay? Being able to identify where your instructor is, where mom and dad are, where the different areas around the school are. These are things that are going to help them start to not only develop in martial arts, but also outside of martial arts when they're in school, and they can start to have that awareness on their teachers or other people as well, so that they're not constantly getting distracted or thrown off. So also they have awareness with their ears by being able to have different auditory cues. So when we're calling out different directions or instructions, helping them start to tune into that, so that way again when they leave the studio, they start to pick up on these different cues that their parents or their teachers at school are saying as well. We also work spatial awareness with these guys, understanding the distance from me to you, and having that idea of, okay, well, we're this close, I don't want to throw this technique, or I don't want to be too hands-on. And again, with kids on the spectrum, they don't have a very good concept of that spatial awareness. So sometimes you can see that they can be very touchy, very hands-on, or completely the opposite. They can be very, very reserved or don't want to touch at all. And then last one, guys, is being able to have the awareness of time. This is something that I found is very important for kids on the spectrum so that they don't feel stressed or pressure. Again, that's one of the worst things that can happen because then they start to shut down and they can have those meltdowns that you can sometimes see. So when they have that awareness of time, being able to understand how much time they have to do something, an objective, a goal, it starts to help them when they get into those pressured situations at school, when they have time tests. They have to complete this assignment before this thing, okay? So it starts to help them have that awareness of what they're doing in time to be able to get things done a little bit quicker and just be able to focus more on what they're doing. Skill number 2. This one is detailing. And this is one that I find that kids on the spectrum are actually very, very, very good at. If you've ever worked with kids, especially high-functioning kids that are on the spectrum, you'll notice that you can show them something maybe once, maybe twice, and they will pick it up just like that. I've had kids that I've worked with, and they're on the spectrum, that can do backflips and can do all these extreme martial arts techniques, but it only takes them a few weeks to learn, whereas it took me like 6 months to learn a backflip, and it's insane that they have this ability because they look at these things, they find the little details, and they can pinpoint exactly what needs to happen to make it work. So it's really, really interesting to see when you have a kid on the spectrum and you start to throw out these different things that they can pick up on those minute details. So we do this by applying it with their hands. So when they actually do their blocks and strikes, putting them in the right chamber positions, retraction hands, and all these different things to start to have them, again, detail their hands. Same thing with their feet on their kicks and stances. Again, we all have the proper foot position on our front round side kicks and stuff like that. So being able to help them find those details as well makes them more effective when they start to use those martial arts. Combinations. Now this is where you really start to challenge the brain, okay? When you start to throw in combinations with these guys and you start to have them actually detail extended movements, this is where you're really going to start to bring in their attention and help them be able to comprehend moves even better. And then the last one we work on is detailing teammates. And again, this is a big one because with kids on the spectrum, a big thing is that social interaction is sometimes very difficult for them. So we actually put them in situations where they're detailing their friends in class or even their instructors to make sure that they can actually give them the right feedback and tools to make them better. And this also goes hand in hand because now they're also learning to communicate with their friends and peers as well. Next up is observing. So this is another big one. I'm sure if you guys have ever worked with kids on the spectrum, you'll sometimes see that they can get distracted very, very easily. They'll lose focus and attention on you. And that's again because of all the different stimulations that are going on around them. It could be the lights that are too bright, noises that are just like in the background, and it's little minute things that can start to steal their attention from you guys. So what we like to do in this program is help them work on that by having them observe their partners. Again, when they're working in those groups, it starts to build up that social interaction, and now they're starting to look and identify the common things that happen within those groups when they're actually working with their basics. So having them go through, watch basics, and one of my favorite things to do is do it wrong. And I'll throw a high block like this. And I'll ask them, what did I do incorrectly in? And obviously they'll start to be able to pick it up. Okay, low block, that was not supposed to be it was a high block. And they can identify these different things within their basics. And again, like we talked about with the groups as well, and then identifying and observing themselves. So we have mirrors in our martial arts school, so I'll actually have the kids standing there demonstrating all of their different moves while looking at themselves in the mirror so they can have that self-observation of what they're doing. And again, when they start to see the instructor, which is side by side with them, it allows them to start to mimic and copy what they're doing, which is exactly what they would like to be doing to help them pick up those moves. And next one, skill number 4. This is for listening. So this one is to help these guys actually stay focused on the information that you guys as instructors are giving them. And this one I find is very, very valuable. So we broke this up into 4 different ones. The first thing is critical listening. So having the students focus in on the information that is vital to the game or drill so that it can be played fair. And then again, this also goes into all of the different things that they do outside in school as well. Active listening. Students will have the listening while being actively engaged in answering questions throughout class. So instead of just, asking or telling them what the martial arts moves are, asking them questions. Well, how does this work? What hand goes on bottom when you chamber? Where do your hands go when you're kicking? Asking these things and getting them actively engaged is also going to help them pick up and remember these moves even longer. Empathetic listening, and this is another really big one. So again, students on the spectrum, they don't have that social interaction, and sometimes they don't understand the emotions of others. So for them, this empathetic listening is very important because it starts to have them listening for different cues, and it gives them hints on what the people around them are feeling. Because again, a kid on the spectrum may have no concept of what anger is or what it looks like on someone or how it sounds. So for them to start to have those things, or even joy and fun, for them to be able to start to identify that, it allows them to make better choices in situations so that when they're with their friends, if they're getting too touchy, they can start to identify, ooh, well, this person's starting to get mad, I should probably back off. and that starts to help them stay out of situations that they would not want to be in. And the next one is informational listening. So the students will work on how they can listen to the information that is key to what they're doing. So when it's working on their forms, the thing that we like to focus in on is their stances, or the thing we like to focus in on is your chambers. These different things will start to help them focus in on those different things that they're working for. Next one is communication. So again, with these guys, communication is very important because they don't very much get a lot of it. So for them, we use that communication with their voice. So they work on ways to communicate with their teammates and their friends using the correct tone, the correct voice as they go through. They also use their eyes. Again, communication with your eyes is important. Making that eye contact and keeping it while talking to someone is very important to picking up all the things that they're saying. Next one is their body language, how they're standing, okay, how their body's positioned when they're listening, okay, instead of slouching over and being unfocused, keeping them strong and keeping them focused so they can start to take that information and use it even more. And then communication again with partners and instructors. This is important because now they're getting that time to actually talk, build up these social interactions, and start to learn how to work with someone else that is new, or it could be someone that they've worked with before. And this starts to help them again when they start to leave and go outside of the martial arts dojo. Next one, guys, is building up their retention. Okay, so for this one, this is important because we're starting to help them be able to remember all the different things that we're teaching them, not only in our dojos, but when they leave as well. So being able to help them with this stuff is going to be huge. Next thing is going to be your long-term. So for these guys, helping them with long-term retention. The students will remember different moves and combinations that will apply in the long term. We do a lot of stances, strikes, blocks, kicks that they do over the entire program. Again, there's 9 belts in the program that they go through, or 9 different levels, so they'll actually progress and go through all of these different things, and they're actually retaining it as they go through because of the different strategies that we use within it. They also work on their short-term memory, so being able to remember things that only apply for the short term, where you lined up at the beginning of class, where you were sitting at the beginning of class when you go to school. These different things start to help them because now they can take that and apply it when they leave as well. And then reactive memory, being able to have that recall as quick as they can. When we start to call out different blocks, strikes, kicks, seeing how quickly they can actually remember these moves. And this again starts to translate into math, science, all these other things where they're starting to have that retention and then quick firing responses when they're working with their teachers. I talk too fast, you guys can tell me.
Got 5 minutes, sir.
5 minutes, perfect timing. So, up next is durability. Again, with these guys, they can have lower muscle tone and they can be a little bit weaker because, again, there's not a lot of things that get these guys involved unless they're personally working with an OT or they have a physical therapist that they can go to help them build up these muscle groups. So for our program, one of the biggest things I always get back is the students develop not only as people, but their strength and physical fitness becomes so much better because of the way that we use it. So we target their arms to build strength within their arms to have those stronger blocks and strikes, their legs to develop that so they have stronger kicks and stances, their core. This is more of the control muscle for their entire body. So again, when they're throwing a lot of their martial arts movements, we all know, it comes from the core, so getting that strong as well. And then their abdominal regions as well. Being able to control that and getting more strength in their abs is going to be key for them as well. So, next one up, guys, is determination. So this one is another really big one. Having the students push themselves and be able to get to the next level. Kids on the spectrum, they get into those pressured situations. A lot of the time, you'll see they can shut down. Okay, not all the time, but a lot of the time they will. So being able to have them work on the skill of determination, being able to push themselves. So when they have that pain or when they have that fear or pressure, they don't just shut down and give up. They push through. And the way we do this is by targeting their mind. Students will work on staying positive during different challenges, okay? We'll also make them stronger with their body. So when they start to go through those uncomfortable situations where they're doing exercises, instead of just giving up, identifying that, hey, this hurts, but I'm getting stronger. And that's what it's all about. Next up is when they are challenged. So when they get those challenges from me as an instructor, 30 push-ups or 20 push-ups in a minute, whatever it may be, being able to take it and say, okay, I can do this. This is not impossible. And then the last one is when they feel pressured. Again, you can feel pressured when you're taking a test, when you're in front of everyone, when you're standing in front of a room of amazing martial artists. But having that determination for them is very, very key because, again, they want to start to be able to step into society and be in those awkward situations because, again, we've all been there. It's part of life. It's normal. So to be able to help them be in those situations and still be able to push through is something very huge that is just amazing to watch your students do. And now we go over kind of why I picked out these different ones. So this was a lot of the studying that I did working with the OTs. So these are kind of the things that we came up with, why the students were good at these things, where they could use the most help at, and that's kind of where we got these different skills from. So awareness and detail. Students on the spectrum are, again, they're generally good at finding those key details for the movements, but the goal is them to gain that understanding of what their body is doing as they go through these different motions. Next up is observing and listening. So again, students are good, very, very good visual learners. When we start to show them things, they can start to see it, they can do it. But the goal is to help them tune into that key person so that when that person is talking to them, they can also absorb that information with their auditory as well. Communication and retention. So again, students on the spectrum are good at keeping information within their interest. And that's a key one there, within their own interest. If they're not interested in it, you may find that they're not as enthusiastic when trying it. So this is a key one because it helps them keep their interest, but the goal is to be able to help them communicate with their friends and peers effectively so that, again, they can start to build up even more. And then we have determination and durability. So with this one, students can have low muscle tone, which can result in faster fatigue. And this is the goal for to have the students be able to push through, push their limits, and make themselves the better version of themselves that they can possibly be. And I think that's pretty much it. And if you guys are willing to connect, my Facebook is right up here. You guys can see that. My Instagram. I have a bunch of information for you guys. And if you're interested in the Spectrum Skills program after, feel free to come up to me, talk to me, message me on Facebook or anything like that. And I'll be sure to get you guys any information that you guys would like. Thank you. How do I handle a meltdown? Very, very.
Back.
That's also mine.
Yeah, I was just saying. Oh, thank you. Alright, so the question was, how do I handle a meltdown in class? And this is actually a really, really good one. So for me, what I like to do is, we have a big crash mat that's just like a big foldable pad. What I like to do is make a safe space. So for our students, when we have them melting down or they have that just overrush of stimulation, what I like to do is put them in an area where there is no stimulation. Having them go into a room by themselves, in the dark, in the quiet, and I'll actually have this little area set up as a tent. So we have a little back room in our actual dojo where the kids can kind of go sit down and mom and dad can sit outside. And what I'll do is when they get into those high stimulation times, I'll put them in there, I'll have mom and dad go back with them, and they can take any toys or anything that they would like in there to just help them regain their focus. A big thing with them is, again, they're getting overstimulated. So when we take away their stimulation, it starts to help them calm down, reset, and then they're able to go back into class. So, yes, sir. I would recommend not doing that. I would recommend having some of the parents coming out and helping you guys with them, because with this class, again, when you start to get... Yes, this would be a class that you would really want the parents to stay there, just because, again, when they start to have those meltdowns, you can do some as an instructor, but it's not going to make them feel as comfortable as mom and dad being there. So with this class, until they've been there and you're confident that this student is exceeding your expectations and they're comfortable with being with you, I would recommend keeping the parents there. And again, you'll start to see that they become more comfortable maybe within the first year of working with you, because then they have that trust. They're not anxious when mom and dad leave anymore, and they start to be able to work with you better. So
These are all great questions we can have when we're over on the other side of the island with blue margaritas.
yes, sir.
We're gonna put the hook on. Yeah.
Thank you guys again.
Great job. Great job.